The DA is a party of land thieves, a racist party of land thieves. I mean, there's no question about it.
Sure.
And I mean, how can you work with the DA? I mean, it's a little bit like if there was a big enemy who was threatening both me and you as brothers, but somehow I found it in myself to collaborate with the big enemy against you.
This is the Hustler's Corner.
Quite excited, back on the Hustler's Corner. First up, shop sign on the count of 1, 2, 3. Click, 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 click. Click that button. Thank you for clicking those likes, because it helps our algorithms so the video can be shown to as many people as possible. Don't forget to click the subscription button so you also become a part of the community. The community has been growing. Would like to thank you guys. I'm quite excited that finally you guys, you see, remember guys, Virtual Mkuku is yours, right? You are building it. It's not just myself and the godpan Penuel that are putting these ideas together. Every idea that you guys put in there, we read your comments, we read the feedback, and then from there we sit down and then we implement. We don't even want to go overthink it and go strategize. No, we implement, we execute immediately. You guys said you're asking for Mr. Andile Mngxitama. He's right here today. We brought him right here. He's a former member of the National Assembly of South Africa. His full name is Mr. John Andile Mngxitama. He's a South African politician serving as the president of the Black First, Land First Party since October 5th, 2015. Formerly a member of the Economic Freedom Fighters, he served as a member of the National Assembly of South Africa for the party from May 2014 up until April 2015. Ladies and gentlemen, he is a proponent of black consciousness, unashamedly, unafraid. He speaks truth to power. He loves black people. If there's one thing that I love about him, is that his undying love for black people is very prominent. He loves black people, we love him back. Penuel, thank you for making this happen.
Thank you so much, Buddha. Thank you so much. Andile, thank you so much for coming through. A lot of people have been wanting to hear from you. A lot of us were worried about you. I believe you were ill. I'm hoping you'll tell us about that. But from my side, I'm not as black conscious as I used to be, but I come from the school of black consciousness, and the work you've done, the leader you are, I love you, we love you. Because we had an interview last year on ENCA, but I'll take the hidings as a man as they come. But welcome to this platform, Virtual Mkuku, and I'm looking forward to the engagement.
Thanks for the invite, gentlemen. I have a great regard for both of you, and I hope we'll have an enlightening conversation.
Yes, sir. And thank you. I'm actually happy that you're looking great, and I'm sure you're feeling healthy.
Absolutely. No, I came from a very deep situation. I was in hospital for 3 months. For almost 3 weeks, I was in a coma.
Coma?
Yes,
unconscious?
Unconscious completely. And in fact, for 2 minutes, my heart had stopped.
Sure.
So the doctors and the nurses who looked after me, they considered me a miracle patient.
Wow.
So I'm Andile the second.
I wanted to say, so this is the resurrection of
Yes.
Andile. This is the second coming.
Yes, absolutely.
So excited.
Yes. No, I mean, when I was under, I saw visions. Visions of old women, visions of young men sacrificing, and this old woman looking after me, over me. And I believe that that's part of what saved my life. There's a connection between God and ancestors. We as black people have to appreciate that. And I believe my life was saved by these two forces. And a lot of people were praying for me as well.
Thank you so much, Andile. I want to ask,
By the way, I'm one of those people who was praying for you. And thank you to, I know sometimes we use social media to troll. Some people out there, they use it to do negative things for clickbait, for likes, views, or whatever it is. But I saw a lot of people showing up with Andile Mngxitama some love.
Yeah.
And to all of you guys who showed him love, we appreciate you, we thank you. And I'm actually even happy to see him, he's gained some weight, which is a good thing.
Yeah. Yes.
What I know, health is a very sensitive topic. I don't know if you can speak about what was wrong, or if you're just happy to say you were just ill.
I was an attack, COVID attack.
Okay.
COVID-19 attack.
Okay.
And I'm a big proponent of not vaccinating. I have not yet vaccinated.
Jeez.
I will not vaccinate. I'm an anti-vaxxer. I think there are too many questions related to the vaccination program, but nobody must be forced to vaccinate.
I hear you.
Those people who want to take their chances and feel protected, they must be allowed to do so as well.
Okay.
So maybe let's talk a bit about it, because I think a lot of people are afraid to speak about being. I don't like this word anti-vaxxer. I mean, I just don't like division. I don't like it when people are divided.
The problem with anti-vaxxer is the fact that a lot of people believe if you're anti-vax, you also want to infringe on the rights of those abafuna ukujova. Anti-vaxxers are just people saying, mina, ngicela ukungajovi. Abathandayo must please do their thing. But it definitely creates division because of the term. Yeah.
And then what I want to ask him is something we have spoken about on previous episodes, when the Pfizer side effects document came out. You touched on it, you spoke about it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to hear his opinions on it.
Please.
With over, I think, 1,200 side effects. And then it created some sort of conversations on social media. And him being somebody who's a proponent of not vaccinating, I'd like to hear his views.
In a sense, that Pfizer document gave a lot of credence to the anti-vaxxers, to say, look, over 2,000 side effects, and these guys were not telling us. You see, that is the biggest, I think, sin, that those who are making money out of vaccinations were not telling people who are taking vaccines that you will have possibly serious side effects. So that document came up and in a sense gave a lot of credence to those of us who are raising questions.
Yes.
And I think that people who were injured, a lot of them, or people lost members of families after vaccination, they must be paid compensation. I mean, the law says, this is how the whole pharmaceutical industry has covered itself. If you get injured from vaccinations, you can't sue.
I saw that. They're not liable.
They're not liable. How is that? They have complete immunity.
Sure.
How did they arrive there? It shows the power of the pharmaceutical industry, that in fact they'll just make money, they can injure us, they can turn us into guinea pigs. Because right now, by the way, the vaccine that we are taking, it is called, it's still a trial.
It's still a trial. It's still trial medication.
So we are guinea pigs. They're still finding out if this thing works or not.
So we are lab rats.
That's what we are. And our politicians have allowed that to happen. And so there are too many questions related to vaccinations which make me to be very skeptical about taking them. And however, those who feel safe, let them take them. But no one must be forced. That is where we must draw a line, that bodily integrity must be respected. Everyone's health concerns are their first priority. And this story that we're going to have vaccination by force, you can't come to work if you're not vaccinated. You can't travel.
You can't go to school.
You can't go to school, exactly. Our universities are forcing our kids to vaccinate.
Yes.
That is evil. It must not be allowed. I don't think it must be allowed.
It's a violation of rights. Andile, I've got a few questions for you, starting just from the back. Where you grew up, where you studied, what you studied, and how you got into politics, I think is my first question.
Yes. I was born and raised on a farm.
Oh, plus boy.
Yes.
Sure.
My father was a farm worker. My mother was a kitchen girl, as it were.
Sure.
And my first coming to consciousness was on a farm. A farm is a total institution of oppression, a total institution of white oppression. My parents were literal slaves with other parents there. The power of the white man is palpable. You can feel it. And the farmers next door where I went to school, this guy, Jan Serfontein, it's a very interesting story. He was the leader of the AWB in Potchefstroom. He joined the ANC under Nelson Mandela.
Wow.
And Nelson Mandela took him to parliament. And he organized all the white farmers to join the ANC around Potchefstroom in the northwest. And they kicked out all black people from the farms. As members of the ANC, these white farmers were using state power to kick our families out of farms.
With the black government.
Under the black government. But I have known Jan Serfontein, and for me, he was the first politicizing factor. When you are on farms, when a white man's van comes, you must open the gate if you are close to the gate. So I opened the gate because I was close there. I was about 13, I think, or 12. And then after he passed, he said, a donkey. And I said, yeah. And he says, yeah, V, because he wanted me to say, yeah, bus.
Yeah, V.
And, yeah.
Please carry on, Andile.
He said, yeah, V. And I said, I did not want to say bus. That was my first act of rebellion against white at 13. And he jumped out of the van and took up a knopkiri and gave chase. That white man killed more than 5 black people. We know for a fact he shot them and killed them. And then, as I say, when democracy came, he became member of the ANC, member of parliament under Nelson Mandela. And so AWB, before the National Party, in Potchefstroom, turned itself into the ANC and continued the terrorism of black people. So I grew up under those circumstances of very clear white power, white violence. And that is why I think when I first heard of black consciousness, it just clicked. Yeah, I mean, it just resonated with me.
Yeah.
Was it a book or was it somebody who whispered the ideologies to your ear?
In fact, when I could not wait to go to high school in the township, you know. And so when I arrived there, it's a state school, Tlokwe, and there were white teachers there who were very racist. And the one called a young kid, one of the learners, a Bobeyan, a baboon.
Yes, it's very common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wanted some action, you know, and there was no action. And then somebody invited me to a meeting in the township where I met Basi Gukushe, who had just returned from Robben Island, a young man from Potchefstroom who returned from Robben Island. He was a black consciousness proponent, and he cooked me in black consciousness. Thanks for the water, brother. He cooked me in black consciousness. He gave me reading material every week. We will discuss, make me debate people in the streets on black consciousness, and this is how he trained me.
This is in high school?
This is high school.
Jeez.
This is high school. I mean, he forced me to read everything that was available, and then to test my knowledge of this stuff by putting me into debates with some of the key ANC members. We discussed things like anti-racism, non-racialism, the differences between Freedom Charter, the black consciousness ideology. I was properly trained at a very young age in black consciousness. I'm properly grounded.
Sure.
And I think some of the work that I have done over time can attest to that.
Why? So this is high school from Potch. What happens in tertiary, and why don't you then integrate into, I guess, the Pan-Africanist Congress? Because that's who I knew black consciousness under.
Yeah.
Or Robert Sobukwe, or Mangaliso, or Stephen Bantubigo.
Then what happened is there was a feud. ANC attacks black consciousness movement in the township. I ran away. I finished my matric in Soweto Mngxube. And again, I was very lucky. I stayed with Khotso Siahlolo. Now, Khotso Siahlolo is the second in command from Tsietsi Mashinini, the June 16 leader. He had just returned from Robben Island where he was. So again, there, my black consciousness was deeply, ingrained. When I finished, I came to Wits. Now, here's the thing. I was already a president of this Azanian students movement.
You were already leading?
Yes. I was a president of the Azanian student movement. It was for high schools under AZAPO, the Azanian People's Organization. So my black consciousness formally found political expression in AZAPO. But when I was at university, I started questioning some of the positions of AZAPO, in particular around the, negotiations and elections Azapo boycotted the first elections. It said
94.
94. It said they were sell-out based on a sell-out, which was a correct ideological position, but a tactical error.
Okay.
It was a big tactical error.
The ideology was correct, but...
Yes, I think it's a tactical question. You could not boycott the first general elections after 350 years of the exclusion of black people.
Yes.
And Azapo could have gotten 30% of the vote, I believe. It was a big, big movement. And as a result of its boycotting those elections, it was marginalized. And it went back in 1999, but, it was no longer a big player. So when I was at university, I started toying with ideas even of anarchism. Yes, I actually formally joined the anarchist movement on campus.
Jeez!
And they were breaking the university. The student struggles are not new. I mean, even then we were fighting for the transformation of the university. The SASCO guys were very militant on campus.
Jeez.
They used to say, administration think they've got a monopoly over violence. Exactly. And one time there was a mass meeting, and a SASCO guy slapped a deputy vice chancellor in that meeting, actually. But it was interesting ideologically, even if we were coming from different schools, we were acting as one. Even if we were providing critiques, but we were clear the university must be transformed, black students must be allowed. And I mean, there were things at the time of marking. Black students were being failed, and we said, we need to find a more anonymous marking system, that kind of thing. But yeah, that's my activism. I mean, from high school, from the farm itself to high school, and at university, I continued. Then I worked for a land NGO, and we started a land movement there.
Okay.
So the Black Conscious...
Way before PLF?
Way before. It was called the Landless People's Movement.
Okay.
And it was one of the first post-94 social movements. We were highly inspired by the Zimbabwean land reclaim situation, and also we had big relationship with Brazilian Landless People's Movement, the biggest landless people's movement on earth.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah,
I've never heard of it.
Brazilian Landless Movement.
It's
I'm going to go research.
Movimento Sem Terra. Movimento Sem Terra. Yeah, it's the biggest. And I mean, we went to Brazil. I went to Brazil 3 times, and we learned about how a land movement can become a national player, and the land question is significant. And of course, for me as a black consciousness proponent, I understood the situation of black people primarily is created by our landlessness. And sometimes I even say this. White people at some point did not need the land. They needed our labor. But to force us to become laborers, they grabbed the land. The discovery of diamonds and gold is also, you'll see, part of the time they took a lot of our land because they forced us to become workers. And I mean, that is why, and Cecil John Rose, by the way, he said that. He said, we must bring it to the natives that 9/10 of the time they will be laborers. They will not have land and they will not have cows. So we became workers as a consequence of colonialism and oppression and dispossession. And that is why today when we fight for work, it's in a sense part of acting the identity created by colonialism and dispossession.
Begging for jobs, fighting immigrants for work, not fighting for the country. I mean, we should be, South Africa, no one should go to bed hungry. We are one of the richest countries in terms of minerals. 80% of the known platinum on earth is in this country. Why shouldn't all of us be rich? Because that is a God-given mineral, and we should all prosper
look at economic indicators. When we watch news in South Africa, when it comes to the economic indicators, we swap a chart.
Yeah, you switch off. You're like, and then the price of what?
And I mean gold. We are a big gold country, but because we are alienated from our wealth and our land, we don't have any relationship to these things which are owned by white people, and we are created as workers. The township, the squatter camp, town, these are consequences of this white creation. And I mean, the thing that I want to talk about is how we must learn from white people to use political power.
Yes.
See, white people use political power aggressively to advance white interests. There was white poverty even in 1930s in South Africa. Up to the 1930s. And white people deliberately crafted a program to exclude us, but to use that political power as a fake majority, because they were not a majority,
yes,
but to create this false majority so that they can go to parliament and make laws which exclude us, oppress us, benefit white people. What stops us as the black majority? That parliament is actually 80% black.
Before I give Usbuda a chance to ask, what did you study at varsity, and did you ever become an ANC member at any point?
No, I was never a member of the ANC.
You were always about radical black.
Yes, I mean...
what did you study at Wits?
I studied sociology.
Okay.
I studied sociology up to a master's degree. And again, my research was on the land question.
Sure.
The land question always followed me.
It's always been your thing. And you come from a farm.
Yeah.
It's always been about land for you.
Yeah.
Sbuda.
I think I'd like for him to answer the question as to, I'm sure he has had some reasons why he didn't want to join the ANC. I'm assuming at some point with movements like Azapo getting smaller and smaller over the years, I'm sure at some point you saw an opportunity of a big black political party like the ANC as a movement for you to make an impact in the country. Why didn't you join it?
And why not PAC as well?
A PAC actually even, yeah.
You see, the PAC, there's always the question, why black consciousness and the PAC? Biko and Sobukwe. Why didn't Biko join the Pan-Africanist Congress? Because when Biko's older brother is actually a PAC member.
Please stop there. Ubigo was never part of the PAC?
No, never.
I didn't know that.
He doesn't say that on his book.
No.
He was just part of the black consciousness movement.
He started the black consciousness movement in the country.
He wasn't PAC?
He was never PAC.
Okay.
His big brother was.
Okay.
And there's always been the question on the race question. The PAC has not settled that question properly. For instance, the PAC accepts white members. And Steve Biko's black consciousness excludes white people completely.
Sure.
And that is why, we are Bikoist. My movement is a blacks only movement, And so that is one of the big differences between the Pan-Africanist Congress and the black consciousness movement. And as I say, I was in black consciousness. Naturally, I was part of the Azapo movement. But the question is, joining a bigger movement such as the ANC. The ANC is big, but the ANC ideologically is anti-black. Ideologically. And that happened, in fact, in 1955 with the adoption of the Freedom Charter. The problem is in the Freedom Charter. Because the Freedom Charter says, in 1955, where white people were in total control, South Africa belonged to all who live in it, both black and white. Now, there was a colonial situation. How do you say the country belonged to both the colonizer and the colonized? When the historical grievance is on the land question? How can you say the land belonged to both the oppressor and the oppressed?
Sure. And
that is why Sobukwe formed the PAC, broke away from the ANC and formed the PAC on precisely this question. But it is interesting, that the PAC's formation in 1959, already they accepted white members. The ANC did not accept white members up until 1985. This is what people don't realize.
1985, that's late.
Yes.
Sure.
Since 1912, the ANC is the first black-only movement. It was a native Congress, remember? And it excluded white people. The Communist Party, of course, had white people, but the ANC, no.
From the Black Consciousness movement, you go to the Economic Freedom Fighters with Omar Lima.
Yes.
And then, I don't know if you leave or you get kicked out.
You know, when the EFF was formed, it was one of the big historical moments. And we said, look, we need to go in there and push a radical agenda, because all the young people who want change and who wanted to fight were in the EFF. And so we said we'll go in there and give it a proper ideological orientation. And actually we did. If you look at the founding manifesto of the EFF, you'll find things like they removed. We put in the Sankara Oath. Thomas Sankara, you know, the Sankara Oath following Thomas Sankara, that representatives who are elected in government and who are in parliament must by law use public services.
They'll never take that.
So we put it in the founding.
They'll never take that.
Yes.
What does the Sankara Oath say?
Sankara Oath, we're following Thomas Sankara.
Yes.
Because Sankara showed the way in which leadership means service to the people.
Yeah.
And remember, Sankara sold all the Mercedes-Benzes.
Yeah.
And
Servant leadership.
yes, that's servant leadership. He removed all the privileges of leadership in Burkina Faso, and created a new ethos of leadership, which is servant leadership, precisely. So we brought that, we crafted a thing called the Sankara Oath, which says, when I'm elected into office, I shall use public services, because what I give you, if it is good enough, then it must be good for me. This situation where we have a dual system here, we elect people to go into government, then they pay themselves enough money to use the private services, abandon the public sector and let it rot.
That they're responsible for.
Which they are responsible for. It's precisely what you can circumvent by. If Julius Malema and President Ramaphosa were to imagine when they sick, they must go to Bara.
Yes.
Then they will make sure that Bara works.
Facts.
And so that's what we are saying. And we brought that into EFF, this idea of the Sankara Oath, when we put it into documents.
It's gone now. Do you believe it was inspired by Che Ernesto Guevara de la Serna? Because he was a servant leader in Cuba.
Yes, I mean, Sankara himself is highly influenced by Che. In fact, sometimes he's called the Che of Africa.
Boom.
Yes, I mean, he had some dealings with Che directly. So, I mean...
The DA.
The DA is a party of land thieves, a racist party of land thieves. I mean, there's no question about it.
Sure.
And I mean, how can you work with the DA? I mean, it's a little bit like if there was a big enemy who was threatening both me and you as brothers, but somehow I found it in myself to collaborate with the big enemy against you because I have some differences with you. I mean, this is how the African continent was colonized. Think about South Africa, for instance. When the whites arrived in the Cape, they fought the Khoi and the San. The Xhosas must have heard about this. They did nothing. Then there was 100 years of the Xhosas. Yes. The Zulu-speaking people, the Venda-speaking, they must have heard about this. They did nothing. The whites defeated the Xhosa-speaking people. They went to the other groups. Each time they fight us, we do nothing. The other group did not. Or if, in fact, we collaborate.
To help these white people fight our own people.
That's what they have done. The colonialism of Africa and in Latin America, you'll find the colonizer is a small group. It comes there and it collaborates with one of the native groups against one native group. They defeat that group, collaborate with another group, defeat these ones, and ultimately defeat the entire continent. And this is exactly what the politics of today are. The Democratic Alliance is a party of white interest and a party of land thieves.
Land thieves.
And right now it is running some of our key metros. It will run the country with the collaboration of black people.
Sure. How did you end up leaving the EFF?
I was kicked out.
Ow!
So when I was reading the introduction there on Wikipedia, it says up until his expulsion.
Jeez.
Yes,
I tried to just be nice and not say expulsion.
No, yes, I was expelled. Julius Malema doesn't take any questioning in the party. But of course, the big thing was that this right-wing move, this meeting with white farmers in Paarl, telling them that the land, the EFF does not want all land, it wants unused land.
He said that?
Yes.
To white farmers in the Western Cape?
Yes. So if you can Google it, in Paarl, in 2005, he told white farmers there that EFF does not, if the land is productively used, no, you will not touch it.
The EFF won't touch that land?
Yeah, that's what he said. So it is like those kind of right-wing shifts.
Yes.
And then they met with a global capitalist forces. I was marginalized, I was not brought, and I was part of leadership.
Yes, you were part of leadership.
Yes, and I was not brought into that meeting because, again, some, I think, deals were cut. That's why we end up seeing them going to London, meeting Robin Renwick. Robin Renwick, of course, is the arch-colonialist who organizes the post-colonial, orders. In Zimbabwe, he was involved, in Namibia and in South Africa. He even says he's proud. He says he's responsible for Mandela dropping the nationalization question.
I've read that.
Yes.
He convinced Nelson to let go of nationalization.
Yeah. So this is the guy they want to meet under the Chatham House rules, which means that you can never know what was discussed in that meeting.
It's confidential.
It's confidential.
Like some of the CODESA things.
Exactly. And so already, and post that, you saw the attack on Zuma, the attack on the Guptas, and the creation of this narrative of state capture. It, in fact, generated from London, and it was populated in South Africa. Zuma had moved very left-wing. In fact, in his 2007 State of the Nation address, he speaks about land expropriation without compensation. As a sitting state president, saying that land must be expropriated without compensation, that is the most radical thing that you can do. And then he starts saying, Zuma, black political parties must unite. Black political parties must unite to bring back the land. And so he had moved very radically to a black nationalism, which we support. And he was strengthening, therefore, the interests of white power. And at exactly the same time that the EFF was attacking him, instead of working with him to realize a radical vision of society.
So when we look at the 9 years, what is your take on his presidency?
9 wasted years.
Actually, the first 5 years, he was implementing the same neoliberal policies he inherited from Mbeki. But the last term, the last 2 years, he had moved completely to the left. I mean, check his proposals on the mining charter. That mining charter is so radical. It says things like workers must get 30%.
I saw that.
Yes, it says things like
30% ownership of the mines.
Yes, in 5 years, it even says. And then it says things like over 50% black representation in management structures, 50% in procurement must go to blacks. Really, I mean, and then it even prescribed that some actual cash must go into the pockets of beneficiaries, because they were trying to subvert this paper empowerment, They were saying, we look at the turnover, 1% of that turnover in cash must be given to black people immediately.
Yes.
So there was a serious move, and we don't know. People say the Guptas were involved. If the Guptas were involved, then it is clear that the Guptas understood their interest to be co-determined with the interests of black people. The Guptas wanted into the economy. The economy is white-owned.
Yes.
And you couldn't go into that economy without getting political buy-in.
Yes. And
political opening up of that system. And so that is why you see radicalization of the ANC policies, which should have benefited, of course, the Guptas, but would have benefited black people more.
I've got so many issues with what you're saying, but it's fine.
No poke holes. Go right ahead, yeah.
One of my concerns with Andile is, are you not worried that Zuma's a career politician? He may have been saying those things. And mind you, I just want to state, I'm a huge fan of Jacob Zuma as a man. I was a fan of some of his, just the way he moved and how he handled attack and how he was more African than some of our leaders. But don't you think he was being convenient as a career politician, saying some of those things, implementing things that he knew were never going to work? Because there was going to be pushback. If he started off neoliberal, he knew exactly what was happening. And he was maybe preparing himself to exit, but looking like the guy who was trying to fight for blacks when he knew it was maybe not going to happen.
You see, the intentions of a politician should not detain us.
Okay.
Because they all have good intentions.
You believe so?
Oh, of course, that's what they say.
Okay.
But we must look at their actions.
Sure.
So take the last action of free education. Zuma proposed and announced that policy as a fact.
He did announce it.
He announced it.
Yes.
So what his motivations are and some motives are, that is irrelevant. The point is he called for free education, which was something that we are all saying it must happen. And then he announced that policy. Similarly, on the land question, when the state president says black political parties unite, I mean, for me, that was a defining moment of a left black nationalist shift.
That was your chance to join the ANC, though.
No, they would have expelled me.
Just like you were expelled at the EFF.
The ANC will expel me for a first day because, I mean, people like Derek Hanekom and so on.
You're about black.
Absolutely.
One of the major reasons you wouldn't join the ANC is because you're about black.
Yeah, and the ANC has shown itself to be anti-black.
Sure.
I mean, under Thabo Mbeki, the ANC had 2/3 majority.
Yes.
They did not need any political party to help them to change the constitution,
yes,
to make sure that land is redistributed. The ANC on its own alone could have made that policy. And in fact, when people say Mandela is a sellout, I mean, sometimes I say the same. But
just let them know that I also say it.
Yeah, but I think we have to think about what he was thinking. If he was thinking, I'm going to make the compromises so that we can get into office, into government, and you are a black majority. And remember, Mandela was there for 5 years and the sunset clauses lasted only 5 years, where he had to co-govern with the white people. After 5 years, when Mbeki came in, the sunset clauses had expired and the two-third majority were there. We had political power, the thing that we fought so hard for, the thing that when white people had it, they turned their situation around overnight.
Sure.
We didn't. We had political power. We had two-third majority of the ANC. They did not use it to change our situation. We are still fighting for liberation. We are still fighting for change. Things that the ANC could have changed for our people. We should not be fighting for land right now.
Why do you think the ANC didn't make that move during the terms? I think it was, 3 terms when we had 2/3, when the ANC had the two. Was it 2 or 3 terms?
No, I think it was under the Mbeki time.
Yeah, that's 2 terms.
Yeah.
So it's 2 terms, right? So, I mean, we had almost 10 years.
Why not change the constitution? I mean, my bigger concern is why do we even respect the constitution? But why not?
No, you have to respect the constitution. But that's your
I'll give my views another day.
But I want to hear his thoughts on why does he think the ANC didn't do it or didn't do anything? Because as I understand, the ANC was formed, the main reason was to get the land back.
Absolutely. No. You see, the ANC was formed as a land movement, but as I say, by 1955 it had abandoned that idea. It became a liberal, civil rights kind of a movement. And it was not going to upset white interest. Mbeki in particular, he come from that stream of the leadership of the ANC, which is completely Western. The early coconuts.
Jeez.
So it's what you said on the previous episode.
Is it? Yes, that the ANC was actually a bunch of, and I'm going to say it because it's my opinion and I don't mind being slashed for it. It was set up by a bunch of uppity black, clever blacks who were about getting themselves in and not necessarily about the black masses per se.
You see,
so from a coconut perspective, I understand because of his background.
It is a double-edged sword though.
Yeah.
The coconutification of the black elite has always had the danger that the coconut will turn over the system, will turn against the system.
Yes.
Because, I mean, it is still racist. You have a white consciousness and so on, but you're excluded on the basis of your blackness, and you therefore rebel against the whole thing. However, these early coconuts in the ANC were too susceptible to accepting the white order, white thinking. And when the whole 55 situation happened and the language of rights was again brought in instead of the land question in terms of nationalist question, it prepared the ANC for the sellout which then happened. And Mbeki is a key guy. By the way, he wrote a whole 30-page document attacking Zuma for Zuma saying black people must unite to bring back the land. Wow. Mbeki wrote a whole 30-page document saying that Zuma is anti-ANC.
And he was correct, because the ANC is non-racialist.
But this is the thing. I mean, when I first read it, I was saying Mbeki is a sellout, and I said no, but he's actually consistent.
Yes.
The ANC
policy.
The ANC does not see black unity as a motive to bring about change. You can't say you're black and proud in the ANC,
yes,
because you must worry about your white comrade.
Correct.
You need to say you are non-racial, you are all-inclusive, and in fact, you cannot even say, hey, you stole my land, you know. And so that is really why we are here today, where black people remain excluded. I mean, look at the statistics of management. It's still 70% white. That's top true. Management. The earnings of black families to a white families earn six times more than we do.
That's true. We
are one of the highly unequal societies on earth. I mean, the JSE, you would know. I mean, what black people own about 2% of the JSE?
Directly, I think it's about 3%.
Directly, it's about 3%.
And then indirectly, pension funds and stuff. They have another argument.
No, that argument of pension funds, nobody calls a person whose money is in pension a capitalist. No one. I mean, the Ruperts and their money is not in pension. So that argument, I think, is a false argument. The truth of the matter is that almost 30 years into democracy, we remain excluded as the black majority. And that is why we are thinking we need to pause as black people and rethink the whole project. We are too much into action. We are fighting amongst each other for jobs. We are fighting because you are an illegal immigrant and all that. But the big question remains. We do not own this country as black people. I mean, we should be thinking like the people in the Arab United Emirates.
Yes.
How the economy there is. You can't go there.
The Dubais of this world.
Yes. You know, the policy there is that foreigners can only have 50% in any business.
Yeah.
The other 50% must be indigenous people. Yes. And as a result, citizens of that country are getting passive income. If you come do business, you have to partner with a citizen 50-50. And the citizen will... I mean, South Africa, if we think about our gold, our diamonds, our mineral rights, we as black people should be very wealthy.
Yes.
Without even going to work. Those who want to exploit our minerals, and now there's even gas which has been found.
Yes.
It will all go to France. Shell will take it. And Total. And we as black South Africans will remain excluded because we do not have an orientation which, just like the Boer put the Boer first.
They did.
And I mean, we must learn from them how they used political power. It's amazing how within 40 years they've dealt with poverty. They've created all these massive multinational institutions through political power. The Broederbond was involved in organizing the economic situation and make sure that it excludes black people, it benefits white people. We must learn from them and use our political majority. Guys, we are a majority in this country. What that means is that we have the political power to change our situations. But now we are all divided, fighting each other and allowing white people to not only just be represented in the economic sense, but politically as well.
Can I say that Andile admires Afrikaans people because of the Broederbond?
No.
I want that to be a headline. Andile admires the Broederbond and Afrikaans people.
No, I don't, but you must learn from the enemy.
Yes. You mustn't be so emotional that you miss out on the good lessons from whoever your enemy is.
The enemy in South Africa, white people in this country have shown us what you can do with political power.
Yes.
You can serve your people. You can deal with poverty. You can enrich a whole layer of your people. And I mean, they did it without asking questions. They did not care what the world says. They put white people first. And we have to adopt the same. We must put black people first.
I want to debate with you so bad.
You look at a very, and I don't want to say small organization, but an organization like AfriForum. And just
they're relatively small compared to the black union.
Of course, but the impact they're making for their people, they show us. So when they come together, they make things happen for their people. I guess I understand what you're saying. There's a lot to learn from them.
I mean, like, take the energy you're putting and the creativity you're putting in empowerment. Imagine if there was a government behind you, making sure that we have access to land, we have access to all the credits, I mean, financial support. Imagine somebody like you should just speak, and the whole government, the whole state
should be behind you.
I mean, that's how the Africana capital was created. It was created by support of the state because it was a pro-Africana state. Somebody like you should not be doing all this on your own when this government has so much resources. Some of them, of course, locked up in pension funds and all that. Some of that money could be used. I mean, land. You should not be buying land. You should be just inviting us to put money for a structure. Land must be available to you for free because nobody created land here. Land was God given. But we have to start buying the land first before we even think about putting up the structure, because there's no government thinking about how we answer these historical questions, which creative individuals like yourself, and we're grateful, Barasbu, for what you are doing. I mean, getting us together, answering some of these questions, trying to create wealth for our people. Also, that will be there for generations. But I'm saying we could do this at a national scale if there was a state which is pro-black and simply making these things possible. That's how the Afrikaner created wealth. That's how the Afrikaner, I mean, think about the land, on the land question, the agriculture. You know, we were better agriculturalists than white people.
Yes.
But since the 30s, they became better than us because the state gave them free money. They're just pumping money into the agricultural sector, supporting it, creating cooperatives, making sure that you plant, your goods go into the market and you get your money back. And if not, you get support for inputs. That's how they created the South African agriculture today. We don't have a government. Even when we get land, there's no proper support on that land. So we need to rethink the whole situation of how we move forward as a people and how we harness our numbers and creativity.
I want to debate you. Can you come back? Because I just want us to hear from you today, but I want to debate you so bad.
I'm willing to debate.
You want to come back?
I will come back.
Thank you. That's from me. I'm hoping the comments will say the same. So then you start PLF. What's happened to PLF to date? You guys went to the elections, and then next thing, I think you guys got kicked out by IEC.
We had a very tough time. There was a time we were banned, and then we managed to get back. We amended our constitution because our constitution was very explicit that no white people. And so
that's unconstitutional.
They said it's unconstitutional, but I mean, it's crazy. We still don't accept white people. Will not accept them. We're a blacks-only organization. The problems of South Africa are primarily created by white people who continue to benefit from our exclusion. And that's why we must defeat your friend Rob Herzog.
You see, that's where the debates are going to come. But I'm listening. I'm here to listen today.
Until we defeat him, white power will perpetuate itself and create problems for us. So Black First Land First was then banned, and then we came back. And then, of course, we participate in the elections. We did not make it because of number of reasons. Key of amongst them is resources.
Sure.
You know, I believe that the EFF did not spend less than 50 million rand in the last election.
50 million.
50 million. If you look at just one billboard, one of those billboards, it's 100,000 a month.
Jeez.
And they had them across the nation. And you find there are posters everywhere, including deep rural area. That's a lot of money.
Yes.
And the same, I think the ANC spent about 60 billion.
60 billion?
No, 66. No. 60 million.
60 million?
Yeah.
And the EFF spent 50?
Yeah.
Jeez, okay.
I mean, and I think the DF spent also close to that.
Sure.
If not more, no?
If not more. So elections are very expensive. We spend about 50,000.
Come on. Bootstrapping.
Yes. And so we need to think about that as well. How we can make representation more meaningful and not so money driven. So that, people's choices are not subverted by money. And that is why people go to rob Herzog and so on under the table. They get the money.
That's
and
true.
Then ultimately you see their messages are not consistently pro-black because the ruling class, which is Stellenbosch, controls parliament. In a sense, therefore, our political freedom is bought by the same people that we need to defeat. I mean, look at the president of the country, a very direct thing, where white business gave him R1 billion to contest the ANC conference. I mean, this is not speculation.
It's out there.
Yes. I mean, why would they give him R1 billion? R1 billion.
Yes.
R1 billion to buy the ANC conference. And therefore, the white people, white power, bought itself a president.
Yes.
And therefore, South Africa is controlled and ruled in the interest of white interest because of the economic power. We have to really use our majority to break the monopoly of white people over the economy.
I'm hoping when you come back, because I actually thought you were going to whack me a lot today. I know you gave a jab there about Rob. I want you to come back. I want us to debate Rob and wealthy white men like him. I want us to unpack land. I've got my views around land and why I think some of the things you stand for are not entirely correct, and I don't think the trajectory is great. I've got some ideas for what BLF should be doing in terms of winning. I've got ideas on how you can stretch a 50,000 at other elections to make sure that you hit where it hurts, and it's David versus Goliath. I want to see if I can try challenge your mind on this blacks only thing and go beyond black and go into character, because if you say a black president can be rented, for example, maybe skin shouldn't be the determining factor of what you're fighting for. But I think I was happy with this sit down because I think more than anything, I'm happy to learn from you, to listen to you, and because we are brothers and we're all going to in the same direction and we want the same end goal for the masses of our people. I'm hoping you will come back and then we can arm wrestle for real. Because you've been trolling me on social media and I need to get you back.
Oh, has he?
Jeez!
What did you say to the young man?
Jeez!
No, I mean, his notion of being a god did get my goat a bit. But of course, I mean, I consider him a black conservative. He doesn't believe in affirmative action and anymore, and doesn't believe in BEE anymore, and
I'm not black conscious anymore.
Not black consciousness. Even culturally, you're no longer Zulu, right?
Yes.
So he's moving in interesting directions.
Same here. I've got some interesting concerns on how he moves, but I love the fact that there's people like him that move like that. Yeah. You don't have to agree with people to learn from them and to work with them. Yeah. And I actually love the fact that he's like that. Yes. I like the fact that he's starting his own religion. I just love the fact that he is his own person. Yeah. And sometimes I take flag for hanging out with the young man who calls himself God, who's starting his own religion. But I think it's interesting. I just love young people who believe they want to lead. And they want to speak truth to power, and they're not afraid to go against the grain or go their own way. But do I agree entirely with everything he believes in? No.
Sure. No, I mean,
And you believe I'm captured, sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, ideologically, I think there is a big affinity between you and white power. But it is true, we need to let 1,000 ideas blossom and there be contestation in society and let the best ideas really win the day. And I mean, that's why I appreciate this forum so much, where we are able to share our own ideas and get feedback from society as well.
Me, I'm just grateful that even though you're not at your A game health-wise, you took some time out of your busy schedule to come and spend some time with us. I know that you're still in your recovering process. You're not there yet, but you still said, let me drive my car, let me go see the young guys and have a chat with them. I appreciate you for that. I appreciate you for loving black people unashamedly so. Thank you for your love for us, black people. Thank you for the work you've been doing over the years. Everything that you go through in your political career is obviously, and it's evident, we can see it. It's for black people. And for that, may you continue to grow. May your family continue to succeed. May the children grow. May they also attend their own education so they can become their own people in the future. So we want to thank you. We love you very much. And may your health recover to be 110% best. And we would like to have you back. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Andile.
Thank you.
From my side, I love you as well.
Thank you.
And Jobangisho, I think we're all moving in the same direction. And if steel sharpens steel, I'm happy with black unity. We need to win. Our people need to win, and this country needs to be better. And we may not agree on certain ideologies, but just like you're inspired by Amapunu, Andile Mngxitama loves Afrikaans people and the Broeder Bond.
There's another point now.
I'm inspired by your leadership, even if I may not agree with some of the ideologies, and they inspire me to also do my bit in taking this nation forward so that your people can also benefit from what we're trying to do. Thank you so much from my side.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Last words, sir, to our people out there. There's a lot of young people that are watching.
Yeah, I mean, the first act to come to consciousness is to familiarize yourself with Steve Biko's work. It's very accessible. I write what I like, must be your Bible. Read it, discuss it, share it amongst yourself, and you'll become better people and become better black revolutionaries, which is what I hope you can all be.
Thank you, sir. And quickly before you go, now that you've touched on the books, I'm going to ask you 2 or 3 more books that you may recommend for young people who are maybe new into black consciousness or who have not delved into those types of books. The other day I did recommend I Write What I Like. I've actually even read it online. There's some posts on YouTube where I'm reading the book for you guys. I'm actually going to read it again on camera, and I'm going to get into other books and read them. So we post videos in case you're lazy to read. That's why I love reading for people who are either lazy or too busy to read. What book can you I think I also recommended George G. James's Stolen Legacy the other day. You also recommended 2 books. Maybe some other books apart from I Write What I Like, Steve Biko's memoirs, other books that you can recommend to our young people out there?
They must get my Blacks Can't Be Racist. You can find it online or you can order it from me as well. And I think that the work of Frantz Fanon, Black Skin, White Masks, is one of those. The Wretched of the Earth is one of his other works. And Henry Clark, check him.
Henry C. Clark.
Yes, I mean, you will. And then, as fiction goes, I'm a Marachera guy. Dambuzo Marachera. Check his House of Hunger and the Black Sunlight.
Thank you, sir. God bless you.
Thank you, brother.
Izolate.
Thank you.
Ladies and gents, another exciting episode of the Hustlers Corner. Don't forget to click that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. We have to grow this community. And how it grows is by you guys sharing snippets of this interview or sharing this interview with some of your friends, your followers. Let this community grow, because at some point we're going to leverage having a certain number of people on our platform to go get some things out there for you guys, whether we're speaking to government institutions or we're speaking to corporate organizations, to somehow find ways on how we can get certain things for our audience out there.
Facts, collaboration.
collaboration is key. See you guys on the next video. Let us know on the comment section who would you like to have next, the questions, and some of the ideas on how we can make this platform, Virtual Mkuku, become better. Remember, you are building this platform. It's yours. It's not ours. It's not mine and Penuel's one. But for now, we're riding on the back of the Hustler's Corner. At some point, Virtual Mkuku will go and become its own entity and stand on its own. I'll see you guys soon. God bless.
Thank you.
This is the Hustler's Corner.